What's up, you damn gorgeous, beautiful gamers? Welcome back to role-playing games. This is Mariel Khan in the internet, where we like to discuss about RPGs. If you like the content, if you like to have these conversations with Mariel James, I would very much like to invite you to hit the like button because it really helps me like you have no idea. And also, most of the people that watch my content are in fact not subscribed to my channel. I know that you came back and that you are enjoying this kind of content, that you actually do like the content, so might as well, right? Take the time to like the video because we talk about RPGs in here. You might be interested in that. That being said, I'll have timestamps like always on the video so that you can jump to a specific part if you're not interested in this or that. We're going to jump this into sections: stats, equipment. Right now I'm going to comment, give you some highlights of the build, some advices that we can make to make this thing properly work. But all in all, it's a very strong build, a very powerful build, and I know that not many people are actually out there leveraging the capabilities and the strengths of Ice kind of builds, and let me tell you that Ice is actually quite broken. Everyone is making a fuss about bleed builds, but I would argue that Frost builds, while not as versatile because it doesn't have that many weapons or choices, base scaling choices, it's still a very strong build. So, some little disclaimers before we move on with video. PvP wise, it's very strong because what happens essentially is that you're going to land more damage onto your enemies, and also it's going to take way too much for them to regain their stamina. Now, let's move over first to how do you use this thing. You will notice, or you might have noticed, that on the PvE section showcase, I was actually using this little bow. What happens here is that what we want to do on bosses is to freeze them, and it's going to take a chunk of their health bar. But the problem is that it gives them the debuff. The debuff, what it does is that they take much more damage. They take increment of 20% more damage taken, and they also have lower stamina and regeneration. The thing is that you're not going to be proccing your Frost like you would do with bleed builds. So what you want to do is take out your bow, fire a fire arrow onto the boss, and it's going to restart the status ailment. So that way you will be able to keep proccing the Frost onto the bosses, and we have enough Frost on these weapons to be able to proc like 4 or 5 times the Frost on the bosses. And also this jumping attack, it does 4 hits, so trust me, those 4 hits, more often than not, that's more than enough to be able to proc Frost on the boss. That being said, let's move over to how to build this character. Let's start with our stats. You know me, most of the times I like to stay on 125 because I'm a PvP player, so I like to stay in the 125 meta. But even then, we have already a very strong, well-rounded build that you can add some tweaks in here to make it more strong, more viable, bigger. Hold on, let me actually take off my Talismans because those are actually changing my base stats. But 125, 50 bigger, that's 60 bigger is the soft cap of health bar. Mind, we have 27. We're not actually going to be using that many spells. We're actually not going to be using that much spells, so you can tone down this thing. But if you want to branch, if you want to use sorceries, then you could very well leverage that mind. Endurance, that's more than enough to be able to use the armor and gear that we're using. We're actually using quite a lot of stuff with this build. And strength and dexterity, those are for min-maxing purposes, and we have nearly self-cap intelligence, which is our base damage. Now, like I said, this is not a mage build. We're using intelligence to increase our scaling for the weapon that we have. So do have that in mind, because like I said, Little advice, if you so decide to, this is a melee character. This is mainly a melee character. You don't actually have to use any kind of spells. As you were able to see on the PvE Showcase, I wasn't using any kind of spells. If you so decide to, you have 70 intelligence, so if you want to use spells, then be my guest. As you can see, on 125 you almost have your soft cap on intelligence, so if you want to use spells with this build, it's going to make you a monster. That's what it makes so versatile, this build, because you can be a Frost Warrior, mainly a Frost Warrior, and deal disgusting amounts of DPS, disgusting amounts of damage. But if you so decide to, if you so want to, you can use spells, and those spells are going to hit like a damn truck because of the high intelligence that you have. Like I said, I know that I am being quite redundant, but this is not a caster. I'm using that intelligence to scale my weapon. So, that being said, let's move on precisely to the weapon, and yeah. So the reason that we want to have scimitars or curved swords is because, like I said, our main goal with this build is to proc frost onto the bosses, onto the enemies. And curved swords are fast attacking weapons that can proc frost into the bosses quite easily. I have been testing quite a lot. We also want to have nice base damage. And as you can see, those are the values of the ARs that we have right here. The higher one comes from the Cold Falchion. The thing that I decided to use ultimately is Scavenger Cold Curved Sword. That is because, as you can see, none of these weapons have any kind of other elements or status ailments like the ones that we have with the Scavenger, which you might argue that 38 is like nothing when it comes to bleed, but it's a nice side thing. Like I said, you're going to be attacking quite a lot with this thing, so eventually, once in a while, the bleed is going to give you that extra DPS, and it doesn't actually loses that much AR when it comes to the Falchion. It only loses 15 points. This is the second one that has the highest AR of all of the ones that I have tested. So we're going to be using dual Scavengers Curved Swords. Like I said, you have roughly 80 bleed build-up points, and since you attack way too fast, you're most likely going to get at least one blood loss onto the bosses. Cheeky enough, if you're cheeky enough and you attack like a maniac, you're actually going to proc twice and 4 times frost. So that is why it's not going to proc twice, because more often than not, in most of the cases, the boss is always going to be dead as soon as you use your frost proc. So the bosses are not going to survive for a second bleed proc. So like I said, this is mainly frost proc. What we want to use is that short bow with a fire arrow. That way, as soon as the boss gets frozen, you fire an arrow at him, and it's going to restart the bar of the frost build-up. So you can keep freezing and freezing and freezing the bosses endlessly and mindlessly. We also like to have a nice shield. I don't actually use it that much, but I mean, I already have it right here, so it might be a little bit more situational. Might be fun to use the shield. Might be a wise idea to use the shield while you're exploring the world, while you're exploring caverns, while you're exploring dungeons. There's that. And also, like I said, I'd not use any kind of sorceries with this build, but since we have the thing right there, like the slot, and we can steal. When we use Earthree's Favor +2, we can steal mid-roll, so might as well, right? So that is pretty much everything that we have on the weapons. Beast Champion Armor, because of that blue cloak that it has, scaled gauntlets and greaves, they make a nice match. I have my blue hair and my character is pale white, because like I said, we are frozen knights, frozen warriors. When it comes to roleplay value, it's amazing. It's beautiful, it looks nice, it looks menacing, it looks like a frozen warrior all in all. It's just a very good setup for our armor, gear, weapons, so on and so forth. Talismans, all times favorite, Radagon Soul Seal. It gives you 20 levels. You cannot miss to have 20 levels. If we're able to reach this thing at 125, it's because we have those extra 20 levels, so that's hugely amazing. It gives us more health, it gives us more stamina, it gives us more room to have all of this. Like I said, this is a very, very hefty build that uses quite a lot of stuff, and if we're able to use all of this stuff, it's mainly because of Radagon Soul Seal and also because of Earthree's Favor +2. If you don't have your Earthree's Favor +2, not actually quite sure. Let me check now. You're not going to be able to swap this for Earthree's Favor +1. So if you're just starting the game, take away this thing, and this way you'll be able to mid-roll like that. But once you get higher levels, you can have your Regal Scepter right here, and then Earthree's Favor right there. Green Turtle Talisman, you're going to burn stamina like a maniac with this build, since you're going to be jumping attack quite a lot and you're going to be using quite a lot of attacks to proc as fast as possible that frost build-up on the enemies. Then you actually need that Green Turtle Talisman. Claw Talisman enhances jump attacks. Like I said, this attack, jumping attack, it's 4 hits. So also running attack, 4 hits. More often than not, that's going to be enough to proc the frost build-up. Affinities on the weapon, I forgot to mention that we have Gold Curved Sword. We also use Hoarstomp. I know that this got nerfed, but the only thing that got nerfed is the base damage that it has. It takes longer to cast, but it's still pretty decent to clear waves of enemies that you're exploring the world, and it also going to give you that frost build-up. So, little disclaimer before you ask me, no, Arcane does not increase your frost build-up, so we're not going to be using any points in Arcane in this thing. What is going to increase our base damage is Intelligence. As you can see here, we have B scaling and Intelligence. That is why we're using our main scaling stat as Intelligence. That is why we have 70 Intelligence. Granted, it does not has, as you can see right here, it does not has that much high base magic damage, so that B is not going to be that amazing. It's just going to be 116 and 70 Intelligence. But do have in mind that this is a curved sword, so it attacks fast. If it had higher base damage, higher Intelligence scaling, this would be a monster. This would be a goddamn monster, because this is just way too fast attacking. You can get away from harm's damage as soon as you attack because of the fastness of your attacks. So there's that. Now, I think that the last thing that we're going to be speaking about is physics. Now, I don't really care about that much about the second one, but the one that you have to have as a must is Winged Crystal Tear. Temporarily reduces equip load. As soon as you use that thing, you're going to be able, as you can see right here, to fast roll. And since we're not using shields that much, then being able to fast roll, it's a must on this build. Your main means of defense is going to be attack as fast as possible and then get away from harm's damage, harm's danger. And what you want to do is to have more invincibility frames while you're dodging. So more often than not, I believe that 100% of the time that flask is going to last you through the whole fight. So it's going to give you lightweight for 4 minutes. That's more than enough. As you were able to see, I was able to down Radan on less than a minute. I was able to down 40 sacks in less than a minute. It's more often than not, since you have so much high value of frost, you're going to down enemies 4 minutes. Like, that's too much. The stronger enemies are going to take you 2 minutes to take them down. So there's that. That being said, that was the build, guys. I hope that you guys find the information useful. If you did, a like on the video is super appreciated. If you haven't already, subscribed to the channel. And do remember that if no one has told you today that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person, you are indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Have a beautiful day, and remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel before you close the door. Have a beautiful day, and I'll be seeing you damn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Goodbye.